All right, let me give everybody a paper for today, a helpful review paper.
They got like warm stuff on them.
Oh, these are new SBs.
Yeah.
The Thanksgivings. Thank you.
Hey,
You gave me.
okay.
Thank you.
Who else needs a sheet? No, but it's close. No, you've got stuff on here that is not part of what you need to know now, but it's
There's theories
just...
that we can also do for our paper too and stuff, right?
What's that?
These are are these all the
Yeah, these are other theories that are in your book or in another book that I have. So, all right, here's the deal for us today. I am going to do some reflection type projects out of some of the reflections that have come in. And we're going to look at how you'll keep applying a theory deeper to some event in communication, because people have had various successes with that as they've gone through the semester. So we'll do that. I'll answer any questions that you have about your group projects. Next week we're looking for the first set of groups to do your group projects. So that's the first 5 groups on the alphabetic list. So first 5 groups are going next week. And then I'm still waiting for confirmation about my December 11th meeting. So I'll send you an email as soon as I get confirmation that I won't be here December 11th. If I am here December 11th, we'll do the rest of the projects and some review for the final. If I'm not, we'll do the rest of the projects at the final, the 3 groups, and then we'll do the final. And you'll have plenty of time for it. All right, let me just make sure I got people who came in. Tony came in.
Lisa came in.
I saw Lisa before. Kian came in. Jason, no. Brian. Caitlin, no. Ashley, no. Laura, yes. Nicole. Arthur, yes. All right. Very good. All right, let me check. Do you have any questions first before we start? Okay, let us then think together about communication theory. The whole semester has been built around the idea that there are different ways you can try to take apart what happens in a communication event. And in communication studies as a field, there are a number of different ways you can try to make sense of something that's going on. And we call those theories. And we said that there were over 300 theories in the field of communication studies. So if you have a particular thing you're interested in, it's likely that there will be some theory about that, about intercultural or small groups or organizations or conflict or all kinds of things. There's likely to be a communication theory. We have only done some of them in this semester, and your book only has some of them. So what I did was I gave you a sheet here that has the first set there, that first paragraph, are the theories that we've looked at this semester. So you've done a lot of work, whether you realize it or not. You've covered a lot of ground in thinking about how to make sense of what goes on in a communication event. The next set, the paragraph there, are ones that are in your book, but we didn't do. Because otherwise, I've tried to cover this whole book other semesters, and it's like overload for students. They're just like, too much. So we just cut it down to about half of them this semester. The other third paragraph there comes out of another book that you may work with someday called Theories of Human Communication by Stephen Littlejohn. This is a textbook that is kind of a standard textbook for senior level courses and graduate courses in Theories of Human Communication by Stephen Littlejohn. And this is the book that we use in our grad program as the basis for your theories course. So I gave you some of the other theories that are there just so you see the names of some of the other theories that go on. You know, when you try to make sense out of 300 different theories of communication, it helps to have a framework to put them into. And we cut this different ways. Sometimes we cut it the way that most of your classes go, right? So you take a course in interpersonal, you take a course in group process, you take a course in org comm, take a course in media studies, maybe you take intercultural. And so you can group the theories that way. So there might be, you know, 20 of them are about this, and 15 are about this, and 50 of them are about this. There's another way to cut them, and that's the way you see on the bottom of your sheet there. You can, go ahead. Yeah, you can group them according to, yeah, that's right. You group them according to what we call traditions of communication studies. Now just, so you've got it all. That division comes out of a fellow by the name of Bob Craig. Bob Craig is a senior communication studies author. He's at University of Colorado in Boulder. And he has been a leader in trying to make sense out of communication studies, so we don't have just all these people doing all these things all over the place. He's got a new book out, this is new this year, called Theorizing Communication. And this was used in our graduate program this year. So this is a book that gets used around here. And he suggests that one of the ways you can make sense of communication studies is to divide it into these 7 traditions. So all the theories that we've done and all the ones we didn't do, all the 300 of them, can fit under these headings. And some of that should look familiar to you by now. You know, you have the rhetorical tradition. Now, what kind of things go into the rhetorical tradition that we've talked about with Aristotle? What kind of things is that concerned about? Ethos, pathos, logos. Okay, it should trip off a box in your brain that's full of all kinds of different words. Ethos, pathos, logos, persuasion. It's got in it the invention, arrangement, memory, all of these things that went along with the rhetorical. So Bob Craig says a lot of theories in communication studies have to do with how we try to make decisions in groups and persuade each other of things. So he calls all those theories rhetorical theories of communication. And if you were to look in the beginning of Stephen Littlejohn's book on theories of human communication, he cuts his book 2 different ways. You know, on the one hand, he's got the traditional divisions. On the other hand, he's got Bob Craig's traditions here. So this is a way that he shows you where you can find different theories. So it's a way to look at your theories in groups. Then the semiotic, he says you got your rhetorical tradition, you got your semiotic tradition. Now, what was the semiotic tradition about?
Signifiers,
Symbols, signifiers, signifieds, chains of signification, the way that images carry meaning in a society. And so there are a whole bunch of theories that deal with that. How ads are arranged, how images. I was just looking at the public poster out here about drinking on campus. Did any of you look at that? Have any of you seen that? What's that?
Who does that?
Who says that? Right, nobody did. Let me get the poster. Just do semiotic analysis quick here. We'll put it back out after we do it. Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know. Is anyone in this group? Did this work?
What is that supposed to be connected?
How do you compare?
Okay, this is a poster from the Social Norms Project, sponsored by the Department of Health Promotion.
Oh.
Okay? So this is based on the Campus Norms Survey conducted Montclair State University 2005. How do you compare? Most MSU students have 0 to 4 drinks when they go out. Okay.
That 12 is very small.
Well, okay, so interpret this to me. Semiotically, this is a communication, and it's a visual communication, so semiotics pops into your mind as a way to do analysis of it. So somebody explain to me what's happening in this picture. What other ways of doing it might you have done? Would they be more or less effective? Why did they choose what they chose here?
Well, I'm not really sure why they chose circles. Maybe they wanted to show that it takes up most of the page and most of the people, but they also could have used graphs, or they could have used symbols like people.
Okay, so another alternative would have been to use some kind of a graph, bar graph, that was like this: 0 to 4 drinks, 5 drinks, 6 drinks, 7 drinks, 10 drinks, 12 drinks, right?
You might not look at that though.
Right, so this is an alternative representation of it. Or you could have used, you know, some kind of image of people, and the people get smaller and smaller. Or you could use a beer stein getting smaller and smaller or something. Right? That would work. So do the circle, Laura, what do you say?
I don't know. I kind of guess this whole circle thing. If you walk by, you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, you
You and you'll actually stop and look at it to be like, either the connect your dots thing, like everybody was saying, and then you'll actually probably look at it and read it.
Okay, so maybe because the symbol is ambiguous, you don't know right away what it means. You would know right away. If you saw this, you'd be like, okay, something's declining. If you saw beer steins, you'd say, okay, it's, it's drink. But you look at this and you're curious. So maybe part of the semiotics of this is to use an ambiguous sign that generates curiosity, a second look. And there's a theory about how you process things. We didn't do this. It's called elaboration likelihood theory. I think it's on your list there. Yeah, elaboration likelihood model, which says that generally we get all this information coming at us and we process it peripherally. It doesn't get into the center of our attention. We just look at it, we notice it, we don't really devote our thinking to it. But there are other messages that we then begin to think carefully about and interpret. And research indicates that if we centrally process a message, it's more likely to have an impact on us than if we peripherally process a message. So from a comm studies perspective, you've got at least 2 theories going here. You've got some semiotics, and you've got a persuasion theory, elaboration likelihood model, that if I can get people to look at this a second time and ask questions about it, I've already got them centrally processing instead of peripherally processing the message. So you could have that effect to it. How about the colors? Are the colors significant?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, it just, they went with a scheme that would be as bold as possible because it's pink against light blue.
Okay.
So it's, they're bright colors. Instead of just choosing red and blue, they're not too dark or too bold. It shows light colors that stand out on a wall, and then they also contrast each other.
Okay, so high contrast, bold, primary kind of colors to just jump out at you. Again, if this was framed as a scientific report, if it looked like this when you went by, would you stop and look at that? Probably not. So even the design part of it is non-linear,
I was gonna say too, when you held up that book, Bob Craig's new book,
Yeah.
I thought about how dull it was and how just the cover alone makes me not want to look at it. But books do that. Like it made me think how certain
Book cover
covers of books
design.
look interesting, and it made
Well, this is not dull, is it?
yeah, it's not bad. But like, does anyone agree with that?
That's what I was thinking.
Really, I don't know. I mean, with textbooks though,
Yeah.
certain books I've had, I've just even the
Yeah, I don't know who designs.
font.
Generally, since you don't choose your textbooks on the basis of the covers, they don't care. But yeah, well, but this is a non-scientific looking, non-linear image. How about if they had used like wine glasses or beer steins or something? Would that have been more effective or less effective for this?
I think it's more effective because you see what it is right off the bat. To me, that looks like women and men, the blue and the pink, or baby something or other.
Okay.
Like,
So
I would
semiotically, it's the signifier signifieds baby or men and women to you?
And I wouldn't be one to read that. You know what I
Okay.
mean? In other words, I'm
How many of you had that signification connection of babies in blue and red?
I thought
Okay.
it was sexual thing.
What's that?
I think it's perfect.
Did you design it? No. Okay.
Look how big the middle circle is.
all
Right.
I'm thinking about
That's
that
trying to
means
influence
0 to 4 months.
Well, we'll talk about that in a
Like
minute.
0 to 4 months of pregnancy.
Oh, God,
Blah, blah,
12.
blah. You know what I mean? It really is an odd poster.
So if there were no words here, you would interpret that as being something about sexuality and pregnancy.
Yeah, I would not read it. I'd read the beer mug one though.
Okay, you'd read the beer mug.
Well, I mean, there are many different forms of persuasion. I guess you can use arguments with either form depending on the theory that you're using. Because if you use semiotics like symbols, I would probably choose the beer mug. But if you use, as far as the elaboration, like you said, I probably would wonder, because first thing I said when I saw that poster is, what the hell is that?
Right. Which makes you look twice
Yeah.
and then process centrally.
So
that-
it really depends.
Right, so there's some comm theory at work in the semiotics and elaboration likelihood. Now let's talk about the persuasive meaning of it. What does it mean that, how do you compare?
I
So
want you to put yourself in one of
it wants you to,
You want me one of these little?
I mean, I look at it and I say, well, where do they get this fact from? Like,
There was a survey done, I think.
survey 2005, called Campus Norms Survey.
Yeah, I think that's a
how many
lie.
people did it and how many people
Well,
worked on it?
you would want to see this, then you'd want to see the specifications.
That's a lie about Montclair State University. Anybody that knows this campus as well, knows it's much more.
Well, you know, it's interesting, I have a grad student.
When you go out.
I heard that fraternities and sororities, like, on this campus, do beat out that number, though.
Okay.
So, I mean,
12 drinks.
not that I'm one of those people, but I'm in a sorority
All
now.
right, so what theory says that if something doesn't have fidelity to our experience, we tend not to believe the story it tells?
Narrative.
Ooh, narrative theory. All right, good. All right, so we got a little narrative problem here, that it doesn't seem to have fidelity to our experience. So we might want to look at narrative theory to explain something about this. Now, what's the theory behind showing you that most people are like this? What is that supposed to do for you?
See if you're normal or a part of the crowd.
Change
See-
the point of view.
It's meant to persuade you that you should be in this circle, because this is where everybody is, and you want to fit in, you want to belong, you don't want to be on the outside, so you want to adjust your drinking so you're a 0 to 4
And that's the theory.
drinker.
Sometimes
Right.
in the circle.
We did a theory about people who want to fit in and don't want to stand out, right? What theory was that?
Adaptive structure.
That's a group theory about how people work together. When are people afraid of being isolated so they shut up? Right. Spiral science theory has a touch of this in it.
Standpoint?
What's that?
Isn't that like standpoint theory too?
Okay, how?
Well, it's showing you other people's point of views on the And the question or their answer.
Okay, yeah, so these different people, yeah, these 12 at a time people who probably don't have much of a standpoint at that point, right? Probably. They have zero standpoint at that point. Yeah. So, all right.
So I guess it depends like how many hours you're out too. Like if you space it out.
When they go out, it's all it says, when they go out.
That's true. But I could be out for a long time and drink a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in the first 2 minutes, this might be true of you. Depends how
We
long.
used to have a poster right outside our office on campus, and it was the same type of deal, only it said in big bold letters, almost like a wanted sign. It is proven that Montclair students do not drink more than 2 or 3 or 4 drinks when they're out at a party.
Okay.
I was like standing there laughing at the poster.
Right. Okay, so let's just kind of summarize here. This is a communication artifact designed by somebody, put out all over campus. So what are the theories we've looked at so far, and what does each theory give us?
Different way to look at it?
It gives us some different description of what's going on. Theories describe, explain, predict, and transform. So we've looked at it semiotically, which tells us something about design, colors. Why is it different than this? Because we're more likely to pay attention to this than we are to this. At least some people are. How about the size of the circles? What's that meant to do? It's meant to, like spiral of silence, it's meant to show us that you don't want to be out of the in group, you want to be in with the norm, you want to fit the norm.
If you were using that theory, spiral of silence theory, would you be describing that the spiral of silence would be a result of them trying to persuade you?
Right, so if I put this up all over campus, and now you go around thinking, oh my gosh, I drink 12 drinks when I go out, I don't dare tell that to anybody, because they'll be, oh, like you're really abnormal, because you don't fit in. If we all come to believe that Montclair students drink 0 to 4 drinks when they go out. So it would shape your behavior, it would push you.
So I mean like if I were to use that to describe it though, I mean like saying, or connecting it to the spiral of silence theory, I would say it perpetuates the spiral of silence.
Well,
like that,
it's strategic about creating a positive, in the view of this, spiral of silence that pushes people towards drinking less.
Okay. Persuasion, public opinion.
Persuasion, public opinion. This is meant to be a public opinion tool.
I think it's more like propaganda.
Which is a public opinion.
Well,
You know what I mean? No, I'm not trying to dissuade, but I'm just saying if the kids are looking at that and laughing, and you know something different, I think the big words or the big pink circle, whatever you want to put there, is trying to play with the mind and tell them that 0 to 4 is your normal Montclair State student.
it's an attempt at shaping public health.
Right.
That's what it is. Well, I don't know. You don't know that until you take research methods class and learn how to test a hypothesis about a communication tool.
I mean, I think a lot of media, like advertisements and all that is geared towards the fact that they think people are stupid and they'll just kind of buy into whatever they see or whatever. Right. But in this case, I think that's totally
not going to work.
It's not convincing enough, and being that we all actively, or most of us actively drink or whatever, we know that that's not true. So looking at it, it's like, yeah, okay. And then you just keep walking.
It's interesting to me that you say that, because I don't know that. I'm a empirical-based person in communication studies. Now you're saying that because in your experience, the people you know, that's the case. But how would you test that? I mean, this is not research methods class, but this is a research methods question. How would you test?
You need an informant. You gotta get a spy.
You gotta get a spy. You'd have to either do what's called a census, where you talk with every person and ask them, Or, well, this is a empirical question about numbers, quantitative. So you could do this by a survey, but you would need a statistically significant random sample of the population. Not, obviously you wouldn't go to a bar at 12 at night and ask the people the question. That'd be a biased sample. So you'd have to figure out how to get a sample of the student body.
Well, if you wanted to, couldn't you approach the research ethnographically by going out to different bars that Montclair students go to and kind of observing?
Right, but you would not end up with the ability to make a statistically valid statement about MSU students. That's a group that we're making a statement about. And if you want to make a statement about that group, you have to have either surveyed everybody or done a random statistical
I mean, I think
sample.
if you took the whole population of Montclair State University, there are going to be people who don't drink.
Right.
And there are going to be a lot of people who drink 12 or 8 to 12 a night.
Right.
And maybe if you average that all out, it would come to 0 to 4 per person.
Right.
But an average college kid
Right.
is going to drink more than 4 drinks and party.
So what?
Rackets and all.
Any of you who've taken research methods, what do you want to know about the findings here?
Well, actually, what I want to know is what do they consider a normal? Because it said normal, right? A normal Montclair.
Well, the group norms. It was a group norms
But it's kind of
survey.
misleading because it says 0 to 4, and it's in the big circle. Everything else is their single circles.
Yes.
Like, duh's going to be bigger.
Right. Yeah. So the 0 circle might be this big,
Yeah.
and the 2 circle might be this big, and the 3 might be this big, and the 4 might be that big. Yeah. So there's a little bit of playing with the statistics. It's not lying. It's true, but it could be represented differently. So
0 to 4 is weird. Why wasn't it 1 to 4? Why is
Right.
0?
Well,
Most people who go out to bars and live in a frat house.
designated drivers.
Zero drinks.
Right.
Zero drinking people.
Why can't 6 be bigger than 5? Like, why is it
Exactly.
That's a different population.
Okay. But all right, let's stop a minute.
Aren't you glad you wrote that?
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
So that could be bigger than 5. All you do I don't like it.
Drinks when they go out. Okay, when you go out to a bar, if you don't drink, you're still going out to a bar. So it should be included.
If
Yeah.
you're polling drinkers, poll drinkers, not
what? Let's stop for a minute. What is the point of this?
manipulation.
Say that everybody drinks.
No,
Informative.
No, it's not informative.
No, it's not.
Point is to try to push students into this inner center circle. Yeah, to be into the 0 to 4. And there are comm theories that will explain and describe what's going on here. So that's what I wanted to get out of that. I saw that before. I said I gotta bring that in. All right, put it back up. All right. So if you know people who designed that, you can ask them. Right, right. All right, let's do a couple other examples of from people's reflections. Now, one of the things that I keep saying to you on reflections, I say, all right, you've got a good example, you've got a good idea, but you need to go further into using the theory on it. So let me give you an example of a student wrote a theory. Student told a story, this is not in this class, a student tells a story about it going to a coffee shop on a regular basis. So they go to a coffee shop on a regular basis and they use Splenda in their coffee. I don't know if you know, all the little packets, yellow and red and blue, and the Splenda packet. So this student likes a lot of sweetener in their coffee, so they will take 10 Splendas and put it in their coffee.
That's a norm.
That's what they do. Anyway, whatever. That's what they do. Now, the manager of the coffee shop observes this behavior and progressively steps up some communication towards this person expressing displeasure about this. So first,
They come in like
5,000 packet boxes. I know that for a fact.
Right.
So, I mean, and it's like what?
This is a true story.
I'll find out exactly how much it costs
Okay.
for a box of 5,000 packets.
This is a true story. So the manager progressively does communication things that signify displeasure, like staring at the person or frowning at the person.
Is this true?
This is true.
They're mad that, do they name the coffee shop for their health?
It's nearby here.
Is it the fine grind?
I don't know.
It probably is, because that's my boss, that's where I used to work, and
Okay.
that's so something my boss.
Okay. Well, in this case, so what happened eventually was the person went in, and when they went in, the manager went over and took